real solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Good evening and welcome to Power Your Life. I'm your host, Joanne White. What if you could remember who you were before you were born into this existence and into this body? It's a topic my first guest has studied for more than 40 years. Author Ann Preciado Rich is versed in human psychology, New Age mysticism, religion, and philosophy, and she recently released the fiction novel, My Cosmic Headphone, an uncommon novel. Ann, we can't wait to hear about your book.
Thank you.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Now, this is a very strange tale, and yet it has a lot in it that really gives some commentary about what's going on in our lives today. So why do you call it a book, a novel for revolutionary souls?
Well, actually, it's about a young girl who is sent to Earth to help heal the ages-old conflict between spirit and matter, between mind and body. The body has actually gotten kind of a bad rap for a long time, especially in the Western culture. But she is born on Earth and it grows up in the 1950s and 60s. So it's really kind of a continuation of the revolution of consciousness that began back in that era. And looking a little bit deeper into it and making it applicable to today as you follow her growing up through that era.
And, you know, it's not just about that time, but like you said, it is very applicable to what's going on today, and that rift kind of between mind and body still exists. Now, Zoe Lynn, that's the protagonist's name, Zoe Lynn.
Yes.
She's, what, a couple of 100 years old, right? Is that it?
Well, she's actually lived 333 lives on Earth. So this is her 333rd life on Earth. And she was very reluctant to return to Earth because, you know, it's full of fear and ignorance and violence. But Earth has this very intricately wired sensuality. And I'm not just talking about sexuality, but you have all these senses that in the story you don't find on any other planet. And she's been to other planets as well, but this time she's coming back to Earth again as a woman.
So when you're talking about senses and sensuality, it's not just like you said the sexual. It's about the beauty of this planet, what we're smelling, what we're tasting, and how she's enjoying those physical pleasures. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, all of it. Which, because of the way we've been indoctrinated on this world, all the fears and prejudices, especially about our bodies and sexuality, we have become kind of dulled and numb to those senses. We don't really have, when we're walking on the beach, are you really connected to the ocean? Do you really feel the ocean alive, that you're part of it, that it's part of you? Not so much anymore. It used to be in older pagan cultures, but this is something I've been recently experimenting with myself, actually. It's quite fun.
Well, also, like you said, you're walking on the beach or going somewhere and people are in such a rush, they're not pausing to take in the beauty of the moment, the beauty of the experiences. Now, you also have a very interesting background in psychology and you've studied so much and you've been influenced by certain prominent people in that are psychologists. So tell us about that.
Well, yes, I have a bachelor's and a master's in psychology. My two biggest influences would be Carl Jung. There's a lot of archetypal characters in the story that, well, started out that way, but they eventually took on a life of their own. And there's the whole issue of trying to find that golden life. which in Jungian psychology is alchemy. It's kind of combining the lesser elements of the personality into this much grander golden whole. And then the other person who was really influential for me was Wilhelm Reich. He's kind of a crazy guy, but he had these really great, all of the great psychologists had a little crazy in them. But he had this idea that sexual repression, as we grow up and we get all these bad vibes and attitudes about our sexuality, we develop this psychic armor to protect ourselves from being hurt. And in the process, we numb our senses. We become numb. Our sensuality becomes numb. So we aren't really getting this full sensory experience of our reality, of our environment. And he also said that those kind of people grow up to become, on the whole, authoritarian, fascist, who have little compassion.
Anne, what does your character discover, and what does the novel want to give us in terms of a message before we close?
That there's really a lot more to this life than we're accustomed to perceiving. And we need to unlearn a lot of the fear and judgment that we have learned about ourselves if ever we're going to kind of free ourselves from being victims, from being zombie slaves,
Right.
to the cultural norm. And the other issue that is prominent that I didn't intend but kept coming out as I wrote the book was this notion of beginning to take the high road, of really developing gentle love and compassion and forgiveness for people. And it's a really hard lesson on this planet. In fact, she has to remember an old life that her spirit companions tell her about that is really painful. And the only way she's going to heal herself is if she learns to forgive it. That's the only way she's going to be able to take back her power.
Thank you so much, Anne. There's so much depth to this novel, folks, so make sure that you get a hold of it because I think it's wonderful. Anne, you're wonderful. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ahead on Power Your Life, dressing for work, what works? I'm joined by a fashion designer who shows us chic but fun looks for the office. And later, singer-songwriter Marcus Goldhaber is here to perform. Here's a preview as we go to the break.
Let wartime be gone.